Delta Niner, Mike, Quebec, Echo. Michael, Quebec, Echo. Over.
Roger, and what's the name there, sir?
My name is Paul. Good afternoon. I heard you critiquing audio. I was wondering if you would care to critique mine. I'm running a little processor and about 400 watts. Over.
Roger. Well, right now you're giving me a 10 over on my local 990 with a dipole antenna. Come back and talk to me just a little bit more. Tell me about your antenna system so I can see your audio.
All right. Right now I am running into a 1-to-1 current balance fed with about 99.5 feet of ladder line out to 137-foot equally spaced, and running through an auto tuner and an AL811 on my equipment. For the radio is the DX1200. Over.
Roger that, sir. Well, you're sounding pretty good there. You have pretty good modulation. We could always probably get a little bit better. You are running the compressor. Are you running about a 3 on that compressor?
Tell you the truth, I'd have to get into menu. I'll tell you what, I'll turn off the processor. There is the processor off. How do you perceive the difference? Over.
Well, you talk about dynamic range, it's both about the same, so you would probably either have a very slow processor recovery time or didn't have much cranked in, but it looked like your dynamic range would be about 3 dB, so that would mean your average percent of peak modulation would be 80 to 85%, which is a pretty fat signal.
Well, I'm glad it's working out. You know, my setup here, if you look on QRZ, it's kind of, well, there's a lot of coax running around, a lot of coax running here and there and everywhere, and a lot of power cords, kind of a messy setup. And I was just wondering, I had some issues with RF getting into my power supply. And if I move my radio back, about 11 inches to where I have a choke on the power supply input, it would come in very close proximity to my grounding bar. And when I did that, I had all kinds of RF, and I'll be doggone, it took me several days to figure out what was going on. Now, incidentally, if I didn't tell you, my name is Paul, and I'm located in Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Over.
Roger, Paul. Well, the best friend somebody that has RF in the AF can have is an old-time field strength meter. Or a new one, whatever. But a field strength meter lets you actually see RF levels, and that's vitally important when you're trying to track those hot RF areas down and figure out how to minimize that situation and what you have to move away from there, to avoid the RF and the AF. And it can be challenging, but I fought it for months, and then I said, I wish I could see RF, and then I'd be able to fix it. And then it came to me that with a field strength meter, I could see RF. And gosh, after I got the field strength meter, it wasn't 2 days later I had the problem fixed, Roger.
Yeah, Roger. I do have one of those Radio Shack cheapy CB-type field strength meters. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of them around here, somewhere in my outbuildings. I've been stuffing old tube equipment and various components away for years, and finally decided maybe it's just getting to be too much. But somewhere out in that pile, I have a couple of those meters. I should dig those out. I was thinking that. I saw one the other day, and was thinking it would be a good idea to have one here in the shack to mount
Oh, yeah, yeah, and they're good RF sniffers. When you want to track down hotspots, those are great sniffers that you can move around. And now, what I did was I put some Gorilla Tape over that antenna just in case I might run across something that I didn't want to run across because I was sniffing in a lot of strange areas, you know. So I did put some duct tape over that antenna that would isolate it and insulate it so it wouldn't get into places that it shouldn't be. But anyway, you know, those field strength meters for CB are designed for 27 megacycles, so frequencies below that, like where we are here, you know, they just work even better here than on CB. So, you know, it's just great as far as divulging the secrets of RF energy, Roger.
You bet. I didn't catch your name if you gave it. I apologize if you did. It's a tool well worth having in the shack. I totally agree. And I should have grabbed it when I saw it last. We've got, we had 57 inches of snow up here, and we probably added another 5 or 6 inches in the last few days. So it's getting hard to move about the place in between the various sheds and stuff. I've got to get out and blow some paths clear so I can make my way into my storage areas. Over.
Roger, Paul. Now, do you have equalization on that radio, Roger?
Yes, I do. Right now I have the EQ off. Let's see. I can turn it on. Whoops. That was processor. I got to figure out what I got going on here. I'm still playing with this radio. I've had it for quite a while, but I haven't been experimenting with it. I ran it pretty much right out of the box, factory settings for the longest time. And just recently started playing around with the settings. You know, I'm not even sure how to get there without losing your signal. Over.
Oh, Roger. Well, let me give you a couple of notes to work on when you do get to with your EQ. I'm looking at the output of your audio on a spectrum analyzer, and your top end is pretty good, but you have very little content down in the lower ranges. So you could try right at 200 cycles, bringing that up about 4 clicks or 5. That would help your curve to be very much broader than what it is now. Right now, it's all up in the top end, Roger.
Yeah, okay. I will take that under advisement, and when I figure out where my EQ is on this thing, I'll play around with that. I was setting up an SDR here the other day, and I got an isolator, a buffer, MFJ buffer in between the radio and the SDR. And somehow, while I was hooking it up, I hooked it up wrong. And I toasted the 2 SDR plays I had sitting here on the bench. I had them both running. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I know what I was thinking. I wasn't. My elbow went over and keyed the mic on 80, where I was monitoring with the SDRs, and hit the lock button. And by the time I realized what was going on, it was too late.
Roger. Now, you're going to lay all that on your Elmer?
Well, you're my Elmer today. I haven't confessed to anybody else. Over.
Hey, Roger. Usually my Elmer's giving me a hard time about a lot of stuff that, well, I know he's right, but gosh, you know, it's so much easier doing it the other way, but, you know, it's not the best way to do it, as he points out regularly, Roger.
Absolutely, I know what you mean. It really bummed me out. I just got this SDR Duo, and I had another one here, and I was playing around with them, trying to figure out how to combine them to monitor other SDR stations. And got sloppy. It was late in the day. As a matter of fact, it was about midnight. I shouldn't have even been playing with it. I was too tired, and it had been a real long day. I'd been out on the ice fishing all day, and I'm 71 years old. It takes it out of a guy. You're not as sharp as you were when you were in your 20s.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm 75, and I think it's just a constant learning curve, and you are the product of your age, and you don't forget that much. It's there, just sometimes when you do things, if you don't ever do anything, then you never screw up, think of it that way. If you never do anything, you're not going to screw up, but then what do you get from that, So you have to sally forth and do what you can do, and you're bound to have some problems along the way, so you just learn from those, and I bet you the next time that situation comes along, you will address it differently, Roger.
Oh, yes, I certainly will. For one thing, I'm definitely going to pay more attention to the instructions on this isolation buffer. I don't really know. It's still all sitting here unscrewed. After it happened, I shoved it back on the desk, walked away disgusted with myself, and haven't since played with it, except to bring it up and see that it was not working properly.
Roger. Well, there's another thing, too. I think we all have cyclical abilities as far as working in good situations and with good results. I think that's cyclical, and sometimes we get on a roll that nothing we do, everything we do works perfectly. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Everything we touch starts working perfectly, and then we have other cycles where it's down and things don't seem to work out quite that way. And I've learned that when I get on a roll, man, I go for a week. If I'm on a roll, I'll go for a week and do everything possible that needs to be done because I know it will turn out right. But on the other hand, when things aren't going quite right, I seek a low profile for a while, Roger.
You bet. That's very good advice, and it's good, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes I go along error-free, make no stupid moves, but when I start getting all burned out at the end of the day, and I should have known better because I was just going to go and hook these up. I'd just gotten the second one and see what it was all about before I went to bed, which was the wrong time to be playing with it, considering how long the day had been. I'm sorry, did you give me your name, over?
Roger, your name here is Jim, Juliet India Mike, and we're located just across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. We're on the Indiana side of the Ohio River, right at Louisville. And I was just thinking, if you have a schematic for those SDR receivers, it could be that they have placed a diode, a protect diode, in the antenna inputs for those things, just to avoid the kind of situation that you had. So you might check either the schematic or be able to look at the radio and the SDR and see if perhaps there is a SDR a diode protect on that antenna input. If there is, then you would just desolder that diode, Roger.
You bet. Yeah, that had occurred to me. The one was the cheapy, the SDR play, and what I did with that, rather than buy a metal case, I had some of this thick copper tape. So I wrapped it several times in that thick copper tape, just as some of them, a little bit of an RF shield. And that one, that's going to be hard to get into, but the newer one now, I'm not sure how it comes apart. It's a two-part case. I don't know if you've seen these. This is the SDR Play Pro, or SDRS RSP Pro 2. They've discontinued them, and I imagine there's a reason for that. But I really liked, what you can do with them. Very interesting. I was even considering getting a larger monitor and hooking them all up together and, setting them up so I could monitor other SDR receivers, if that's even possible. I know I've heard it is. I don't know exactly how to go about it. I'd have to do some studying, but all right, Jim, I'll let you go. Thanks for the advice and thanks for the chit-chat. It's been interesting and informative. And I'll look for you up and down the band. I hope everything's going well. How's the river doing there? Are you getting a lot of water down the Ohio?
Yes, I was running along the river the other day in a car, or riding along the river, and there were a lot of low-lying areas between where I was and the river that were flooded to, obviously water seeks its level, so it was just all river way up inland, about maybe a half mile in a couple of places. So we, have been getting some flooding in the low-lying areas, but these areas have flooded before. They are, obviously in the floodplain, and higher areas haven't been too much adversely affected. But anyway, we're going to move along there, and we appreciate the QSO. And then just another word about your SDRs. You probably don't have a fortune invested in them, so could be that you could, if those don't pan out to be repairable, you could get another set fairly inexpensively and continue on with your investigations with SDR radios, Roger.
Yeah, I definitely plan on it. I had already started shopping around. I think I'm going to get the SDR DX model. I haven't read all of the information on it yet, but from what I've seen, that looks like an interesting little radio with dual receive and sharper. It's a sharper, more sensitive unit. So we'll see how that goes. If I can find something cheaper to wreck before I destroy something more expensive, I may pick that up. What are you running for SDR there? Is it involving your station, your transmitter?
Well, on the SDRs, we're running internet SDR receivers. I have 4 tablets in front of me, and we're running SDRs in Rochester, New York, Milford, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, and Arlington, Virginia, and those come in, on the internet and through the tablets. And then I have a 6-position rotary selector, which selects my audio input, and those 4 SDRs audio outs come up on the 6th position, along with our 2 local receivers. The 990 is running a 0 SWR dipole, and the 7300 is running right now 2 10-foot magnetic loop antennas. They're running now, and I have a co-phase harness, so I have the option of running one magnetic loop or the other. They are oriented 90 degrees apart, but they're so large for the frequency that there's not a lot of exact directivity involved, so they will come together in a co-phase harness very well, and many times, like in your case right now, your signal is probably about 3 to 4 dB hotter in the co-phase mode than on either one of the mag loops by themselves.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like an interesting setup. I have put together a mag loop, and I purchased an amplifier kit off of QRZ. I've got the loop put together. It's a 10-foot loop. It's a piece of coax inside of a PVC, or not PVC, that black plastic pipe on a T-frame on a rotor. And all I've got to do now is put the amp together in a watertight case, and then put a power supply, run a T-bias supply out to it, and play around with that. That was all part of the SDR plan. And I'd also like to get a vertical here. Right now I'm running all wire. I had a 40-meter vertical that I built out of those 4-foot military poles, aluminum poles you put together. And it worked quite well. It wasn't perfectly tuned. It ran a little high on the SWRs, but the tuner handled it nicely. And but I had to take that down in order to put up a tower here for my VHF, UHF. I couldn't get a boom truck in here. So that's going back up next year. That'll give me a nice vertical for 40, and I found a very nice plan for one from a gentleman down in your area who did the same thing. His is standing on a beer bottle. Mine is standing on a fiberglass rod between ground and the vertical, and I guide it. But now I've ordered an extension whip, 22-foot telescoping aluminum whip that I'm going to incorporate into it and use it as the top section. But we'll see how that all works out. It's all fun as long as it's fun and games and nothing major, no major disasters go on. All right, Jim, I'll let you go. Thanks a lot for the chat. It's been very pleasant. I hope to run into you again. KC9, Kilo Charlie Victor, 73, sir. Kilo Delta 9, Mike Quebec Echo, Tomahawk, Wisconsin. I'm clear. Good afternoon.
Roger, Paul, and just a reminder that we have been recording since 3:30, so if you want to hear what your radio sounds like, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our Qso-Vlog page, and on that page you'll be looking for an air check called My Group Air Check 2-2020, today's date. My Group Air Check 2-2020. Roger?
My group, what was it? My group air check?
Correct. My group recording, my group air check 2-2020.
2-2020. I'll do that, although I'm not a big fan of YouTube or Facebook or any of them. I try to avoid them, but that would be worth looking into. My wife signed up so I can use her computer. All right, Jim, have a great afternoon. Enjoyed it. Catch you when we can. Kilo Charlie 9, Kilo Charlie Victor, 73, KD9MQE.
That's Kilo KC9VKV, Victor Kilo Victor. Roger, Roger.
Kilo Victor Victor. Okie dokie.
Yeah, KC9VKV. Threes to you there, Paul. Have a good afternoon, great weekend coming up. This is KC9VKV, the Qso-Vlog net running on Thursday today as opposed to tomorrow, which we normally would be, but we have some commitments that we have to take care of in this time frame tomorrow that we could not shake, so we're doing a day early, and this is KC9VKV listening.